A story broke last night, which, if true, would be way, way bigger, really, than any of the news that has surrounded the 2016 presidential campaign and Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. On the one hand, we have allegations that Russia has a so called blackmail file on Donald Trump. It includes attempts to sort of stage or frame compromising video of Trump involving prostitutes. It includes alleged 5-year collusion with Russia and associates of Donald Trump. And on the other hand, we have dismissals of the entire thing as fake news, including from one corner of the internet, the suggestion that it was all a psyop by an internet message board. I'm going to go through it start to finish with you. We really need to spend some time on this because it is totally out of control. It's a story about Trump. It's a story about Russia. It's a story about media and the internet. Of course, the background on Russia and Trump. We had a number of connections and suspected connections between Trump and Russia. Paul Manafort, Trump's former campaign manager, Russia connected, no doubt about that. We have CIA and FBI agreement that Russia conducted hacking meant to help Donald Trump after initially being meant to just hurt Hillary Clinton. Eventually, as the CIA and FBI have told us a number of times now, eventually Russia developed a clear preference for Donald Trump. How much business does Donald Trump have with Russia? Well, those are some of the background issues, but let's dig into the meat of what is being alleged here. Yesterday, reported by everyone ranging from the New York Times to CNN to everything in between, that when Donald Trump finally received that important, now almost infamous, I would say, briefing last Friday from our intelligence agencies about Russian involvement in the election, he was told, hey, Russia has a blackmail file, as I am sort of calling it, on Trump with damaging information about him. Donald Trump confirmed that he read that and was given that during a press conference just hours ago, just minutes ago. We were watching the press conference here in the studio where Donald Trump did say, yes, I did receive that briefing from our intelligence agencies. So, next question. Where did the information come from and what does it say? I'm going to first tell you what is being reported, and then we can look at the narrative of, is it all completely fake? Is it some combination? What's the reality? Okay. Veteran investigative journalist Carl Bernstein explained the entire process and flow of the information. That's where I want to start with you today. According to Carl Bernstein and others, it's all started when a retired British MI6 intelligence agent started preparing opposition research for a political firm. This was opposition research about Donald Trump. And when this agent started looking at Donald Trump's business ties, some questionable Russia connections came up. Now, this is our understanding of how this information was developed. So the former MI6 investigator then did more research and actually used his Russian sources and took what he came up with to a colleague at the FBI. The FBI colleague took that information to another FBI agent in Rome, and the Rome FBI agent turned all of this information over to the DC Bureau of the FBI in August of 2016. As we have been told the story, the former British ambassador to Russia obtained this information and took it to Senator John McCain, a Republican from Arizona who admittedly has made no secret about his distaste for Donald Trump. And John McCain, claiming to have been unable to determine the truth of the allegations, took the information to FBI Director James Comey. And ultimately, the end of the circle, the intelligence agencies briefed Donald Trump and President Barack Obama about the believed existence of this blackmail file. Okay, that is the sort of path of the information. This is separate from the specifics of the information, which I will get to. Just stay with me. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're about to send me a tweet or leave a comment or write me an email, let's listen and watch the entire way through before we react. Why was Donald Trump told about this? Well, as we have been told, the intelligence officials were concerned that the information would leak publicly before Donald Trump was informed of its alleged existence. That's according to the officials who, of course, have spoken on the condition of anonymity, and I will dig into that a little bit more later. So now that we've understood the path that these documents and information allegedly took, starting as opposition research against Donald Trump, what is in the documents? And this is really important. We have the documents. There is an alleged 35-page dossier which has been released. Donald Trump is very angry about its release. He has tweeted about that. We'll get to that later. What is it that supposedly Russia has or knows about Donald Trump? Let's go to that next. The claims from the leaked so-called Trump blackmail file are, number one, that the Russian government has been trying to influence Donald Trump for years. Number two, that Donald Trump has been to Russia for business many times but completed no major deals. Number three, the memos in this supposed 35-page dossier describe sex videos with prostitutes and Trump in a 2013 visit to Moscow, to a Moscow hotel. This is something called compromat, and I've read about this a lot, Pat, over the last few days. With regard specifically to Trump, the rumors are that it involves urination in a sexual nature, but that's sort of like the most outlandish part of this entire thing. But the concept of compromat is a known Russian technique used to then later be able to blackmail people. And that's something that goes well beyond Trump, and it's sort of something you can read about, and I've read quite a bit about it. Continuing, the leaked Trump blackmail file contains, supposedly, Russian officials proposing lucrative deals that were essentially disguised bribes to win influence over Donald Trump. Although, again, reportedly, Trump did not do any of those deals. To his credit, I guess. He wasn't clearly bribed by Russia. There are purported meetings that, and this is where it really starts to get where people are saying, if this is true, we have a compromised president. There were purported meetings between Trump representatives and Russian officials during the 2016 campaign, which would be absolutely huge. Topics discussed during these meetings reportedly include the hacking of the DNC and John Podesta's email. And lastly, that the hacking that Donald Trump now acknowledges Russia, quote, probably did, that's from today's press conference, look it up, Donald Trump saying, yes, Russia probably did the hacking, that hacking, according to this supposed Trump blackmail file, was carried out with the, quote, full knowledge and support of Donald Trump and his campaign team. Wow. So what's the next step, Pat? We have to start to examine who said what and what can be verified, right? I mean, I think that's where we need to go next with this.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look back at the campaign and the transition, these things start to make sense. The reasons why he wouldn't release his tax returns, calling out Hillary for the 30,000 missing emails and asking Russian hackers to release them.
Yeah, I mean, what you're pointing out is that the circumstances match a lot of what is being put out here, but the accusations of fake news depend on that. They say, hey, you've conveniently built a very circumstantial case, but that's not proof of anything. So now we're going to start digging into what we know and what we could know, known knowns, unknown knowns, the entire Rumsfeld thing, right? So Trump immediately tweeted, it's just fake news, period. We have the tweet from Donald Trump saying, fake news, a total political witch hunt. What does Russia say about this? Well, a spokesman for Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, dismissed the allegations, saying the Kremlin has no compromising dossier on Trump. Such information is inconsistent with reality and nothing but an absolute fantasy. And Russian officials named in the memo as having met with Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen. This includes 3 different officials. They say we haven't met with Michael Cohen. And then another sort of data point, Michael Cohen, again, who is Trump's lawyer, he is named in this dossier as having gone to Prague to meet with Russian agents. He said, not only did I not go to Prague to meet with the Russian agents, I've never been to Prague in my life. So then this gives rise to the counter narrative, right? This is a fake news operation, a deliberate one by internet message boards, maybe, to trick corporate media into publishing nonsense. That's the other side, right? That this is all, it's from the ground up, fake internet psyops. And message board users on the message board 4chan are saying, hey, we started this whole thing. We mailed something to Rick Wilson and it started to circulate from there. The problem with that narrative, Pat, is that nobody is reporting that Rick Wilson was part of the chain of the evidence or of the alleged evidence here.
Yeah, even on the day that this broke, there's so much quickness to call this out as fake news.
Yeah.
But you're kind of getting into conspiracy land there. You have to think that the FBI and the CIA and the DNI are all working together.
You're building conspiracies upon conspiracies, and I think we should stick to what we know. And let's at least for now consider the path of the intelligence to be the accurate path, and then we can start to evaluate the content itself. Now, before we move on to that, I want to point out one other tweet from Donald Trump about this, which exposes some amazing Trump hypocrisy. Take a look at this tweet that Donald Trump sent out, where he said, intelligence agencies should never have allowed this fake news to leak into the public. One last shot at me. Are we living in Nazi Germany? Think about the double standard here for a second. If a foreign government like Russia leaks information trying to influence the outcome of the election in Trump's favor, Trump actually praises and encourages them, as Pat mentioned Trump doing about why doesn't someone hack the rest of Hillary Clinton's emails. But if Americans or American intelligence or whoever it is leaks information to try to protect the integrity of government, right? If you believe that Donald Trump is a Russian puppet that has been guided or harvested by Russian intelligence for 5 years, all of a sudden, if someone is worried about that, leakers are equivalent to Nazi Germany. Does anybody see the hypocrisy here from Donald Trump?
Right, and then the other double standard here is that when Hillary Clinton gets hacked, it's all about the revelations that came out of those hacks. But when Donald Trump gets hacked, hacking in the first place is wrong.
Yeah, how did the hacking take place is the concern when the hacking is bad about Trump. Let's forget about how it took place and just focus on the content when it's Hillary Clinton. Now, I want to remind you that Mother Jones had an almost identical report back in October from David Corn called "A Veteran Spy Has Given the FBI Information Alleging a Russian Operation to Cultivate Donald Trump." That's the same source, right? David Corn tweeted, and we have David Corn's tweet. One, for those asking, I didn't publish the full memos from the intelligence operative because I could not confirm the allegation. So this is not even the first time that this information is circulating. Last thing, let's now assess what we can about the story's credibility. Let's look at the 6 points that the American Press Institute gives us for evaluating a story's credibility. Number one, we need to know, is it a news story or an opinion piece before we can even evaluate it? And I know this seems very basic, but a lot of people don't get it. This has been reported as a news story. Okay, number two, sources. Who and what are the sources cited and why should I believe them? The sources cited are multiple U.S. officials with direct knowledge of the briefings, as well as Donald Trump. Donald Trump has confirmed that he did indeed receive the briefing. Next, we need to say, what's the evidence and how is it vetted? And this is where the questions come up, which is, we know that the briefing took place. We know that Donald Trump got the information, that Russia allegedly has this information, but are the claims true? Are the claims true? We do not know that yet, and we have to be very clear about that. 4, interpretation is the main point of the piece of the report proven by the evidence. Well, it's two-sided. We now have no reason to doubt that indeed Donald Trump was made aware that Russia claims to have this information, or there are claims that Russia has this information. Russia has now said we don't actually have it, but we don't know whether the information is true. Number 5, what's missing here? Well, what's missing is we do not know if the underlying information is accurate. And number 6, knowledge. Am I learning every day what I need? I think with this story, it's good to stick to, stay off the message boards, Pat, and stick to mainstream or typically credible news reporting agencies. What do I believe right now about the truth of this? I think there is no doubt that there was some level of contact or coordination between some Russian actors and some Trump campaign individuals. We've talked about that hasn't changed because of this story for me. I think it is completely unlikely that in the entire course of this election, there was no contact between some Trump campaign staffers and some individuals associated with Russia. Now, as far as this supposed leak, does Trump have some kind of urine fetish and that there was this detail of coordination to try to blackmail Trump. I don't know the answer to that. If this is true, it means the American president may be a hand-picked puppet of Russia. And if true, he should resign. But we've got a long way to go before we know that.
Yeah, I think the most likely scenario is that these leaks are by and large true, and to write it off as fake news is just the equivalent of blocking your ears.
Even in our audience, there is a range of people who say it's completely not true to it's completely true. I think at this point, there's no doubt that Trump received the briefing. We now need to figure out what actually exists, if anything, in this blackmail file. Hopefully, we'll know more by tomorrow. Thanks for watching this video. Before you watch the next one, remember, we're raising money to expand the David Pakman Show Big League, as well as expand progressive activism. Go to davidpakman.com/donate. Donations of any size are much appreciated.